I've known my next guest for a very long time. I was honored enough to be the first ever studio host of Major League Baseball on ESPN Radio. He was the first play-by-play voice of that broadcast. Also spent the last 11 years in the booth with the Los Angeles Dodgers, four-time Emmy Award winner and National Radio Hall of Fame inductee, Charlie Steiner. Good to see you, sir.
Hello, Rich.
For the television audience, they saw it. Radio audience that's now rejoined us, we showed the Y2K SportsCenter commercial. I said it was my favorite one that you've ever been in, the Follow Me to Freedom commercial. You made it seem like it wasn't yours. Which is your favorite SportsCenter commercial that you were in, Charlie?
Follow Me to Freedom's got the legs.
It's got the legs.
The one that I always found most fun to do was when I got traded to Melrose Place for Andrew Shue.
You were the pool boy.
I was Bobby the pool boy.
Yeah.
It was the first and only time in my life where I wore a tank top. I had a hat on backwards. I had sunglasses on top of my head as well as my regular prescriptions. Mm-hmm. And so I go out there, and Melrose Place is a big deal then.
Yeah, you were on the set of Melrose Place to shoot this.
And I met all of the women on the show, and they wanted nothing to do with me. They knew one of them's career was going to go to hell.
Yeah.
They were right. So all the guys wanted to know about SportsCenter and stuff. And so Sydney, who she was the poor foil in all of that. Mm-hmm. And when I asked her if she wanted to rub cocoa oil on my back, the horrifying look on her face, she knew it was the beginning of the end of her career.
So it's not method acting?
No, that was real. And then a few years later, at an ESPY show, I think we kind of recreated it.
Oh, my gosh.
Live.
That's fantastic.
But that was fun, and again, going out on this Hollywood set, and there was not a single woman on that set who had any idea who I was or what I did, and I was kind of used to that anyway.
Well, I always, when I first started SportsCenter as a single man living in Bristol, Connecticut.
I remember when you were a single man and your wife was a single woman.
That's correct, and you met us both back in the day. Going to a bar, whenever I had a bartender walk up to me and say, "This drink is for you," I would look for the fattest guy in the bar.
Oh, absolutely.
Raising his hand back at me, give me an attaboy look, and then would be like all these hot women sitting there.
Yeah.
Not them, the guy.
It's the fat guy with perspiration coming out of his nostrils. Hey,
I
watch you all the time.
And watching you all the time back in the day was the 6 p.m. Eastern SportsCenter. You, Bob Lee, and Robin Roberts doing that show every day.
7 years we were together. Bob and I were together almost 12 years. Mm-hmm. And it was so much fun. Bob, the general.
The general.
Knows everything about everything. And he does. I mean, that is not being smug. Mm-hmm. Robin, of course, is one of the great television personalities of our generation. And there I am. Which doesn't belong and why. But we had such a wonderful friendship and chemistry that lasts to this day. We had a great time, and then, as you mentioned, Dan and Keith at 11, the big show, and we were pretty good, at 6, and then a cacophony of folks who did the late show, and you were one of the new guys who came in and tore it up.
And I remember when I got there were the ratings on the wall for each show. Mm-hmm. And the 11 o'clock rating, the big show that you referred to, the 6 o'clock rating. And I would always hear the rumblings of the 6 o'clock people saying, look at the rating and what that compares to the 11 o'clock show and how it might, on occasion, eclipse it.
We were pretty good. And the thing about the 6 o'clock show was that it was 3 o'clock on the West Coast. Mm-hmm. So a third of the country basically didn't see us. So the 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock Central, 6 Eastern, we had a lot of folks, the first two-thirds of the country. And even so, we were pretty much keeping pace with Dan and Keith. Look, they were decidedly different shows. One was written because there were no highlights at 6 o'clock, and the other ones were highlight-driven, and Dan and Keith were the best at doing that. Mm-hmm. And those were pretty special times there.
And you came from, obviously, a radio background.
I had no television experience.
At all?
None.
So what, John Walsh just called you up and said, you want a TV job, essentially? How did that happen? How did you get hooked up?
This is one of those stories that doesn't happen very often. I was in New York. Life was good. I'd been doing the Jets. New management came in at WABC, and they were brilliant. And so they decided to fire the Yankee announcers, Hank Greenwald and Tommy Hutton. They lost the Jet contract, and suddenly I'm out on the street. I'd never been on the street before. But I had 9 months left on my contract, which was pretty good. And I'd done morning radio in New York for 10 years and network radio. And so there was some huff and fuss in the newspapers that I was now gone. So on this particular Friday afternoon in May of '88, Steve Bornstein, our rabbi, both of us.
Yes, indeed.
He goes into his local liquor store. Well, he did. It was a Friday, and Larry, the liquor guy, is bemoaning the fact that his favorite sportscaster, had just been fired. Steve was a TV guy in Connecticut.
Yes,
I was a radio guy in New York. He didn't know me from Adam. But at that point, John Walsh had recently been brought on.
Yes.
He tells the story of Larry the liquor guy. Do you know this Steiner guy? He asked Walsh on Monday. He said, yeah, I knew him in New York when I was doing the magazine stuff. Well, he tells the story. Let's see if we can find him. Well, they couldn't because I'd left the city and I had a weekend home up in Woodstock. And it took them 3 weeks to find me. And they said, would you like to come to ESPN? And my first question was, to do what? And they said, we're trying to rejigger the sports center, and we'd like you to anchor. I said, you're kidding. So I said, I've got 9 months left on my contract. I'm really doing nothing and rather enjoying it.
Why not give it a whirl?
So I went up there, and my agent at the time, Don Buchwald, who was now Howard's guy.
Yeah.
This was before Howard. Said, why do you want to go to a cable station in Connecticut? I said, well, what the hell, let's see what happens. And that's I got there because of Larry the liquor guy, Steve Bornstein on a Friday afternoon, and I knew Walsh as a magazine guy.
And so you get there, I'm with Charlie Steiner, you get there, and one of the anchors doing the 11 o'clock show is someone from your radio past who was in your employ in a way?
I was there long before Keith.
Okay.
I hired Keith Olbermann, in 1981 when he was 22. It was his second job.
What was that job interview like?
I had heard him on the radio. I knew he was really good. And John Madden worked for us at that network at the time, RKO. John Martin, who's oversees all their production on the radio side, is there. Tony Bruno was on our staff.
Sure.
We had a hell of a staff. And this Olbermann guy, he was working at UPI Audio, and I said, "Do you want to come over and work with us?" And he said, "Okay," and that was it. So then, fast forward all these years, he gets brought in along with Dan and Robin, and then suddenly the surge of this wonderful talent just arrived in Bristol, and we didn't know it was going to take off in the fashion that it did until long after it did.
Well, I just remember walking in there. I was 26 years old, 1996, February of 96, walked in, age 26, and I saw you, Bob, Robin, doing the early show, as they say, Dan and Keith, Gary Miller, Linda Cohn, and Craig Kilborn doing the late show.
Had Tirico arrived then?
Tirico was absolutely there.
Okay.
Kenny Mayne and Susie Colbert and a fellow named Stuart Scott doing a lot of other late night sports as well as ESPN2. I just remember looking around there going, this is heaven. Just walking around
again,
in that
what was
spot.
fascinating when I got there, they were trying to redirect SportsCenter, which had not done much in its first 9 years. And I just got there. I got on the beachhead first. And then all these people kind of showed up, and within a year or two, it was like, ooh, we're pretty good.
Yeah. And now you've got your own school, and you're working with Vince Scully. Holy cow. We're going to be back in 60 ticks of the time of the clock with Charlie Steiner. We'll talk some Dodgers baseball. We'll talk also some Steiner's School of Sports Communication.
How about that?
You have a faculty now, don't you, sir?
I have a faculty.
I have a faculty, says Charlie Steiner. They're following him to freedom as well. Back with more in a minute.
Well, we make trades all the time, and we made a really big one with Melrose Place. It was a blockbuster. We got Shue, they got Steiner.
Andrew? Thanks, Gary. I spoke with NFL Commissioner Paul Tagliabue this evening. He would not confirm nor deny reports that the Chicago Bears...
Worked out great for us. For them, you're going to have to ask them about that.
Hi, Sydney. I'm Bobby. I'm the new pool boy. Want to rub some cocoa oil on my back?
maybe we got the better end of the deal.
Oh my gosh, the Melrose Place commercial, the This Is Sports Center campaign. Charlie Steiner with me here on the Rich Eisen Show. You going to show any of these to your kids at your school at
How
Bradley
not
University?
to do it.
No, how to have fun on the job, how to have some fun.
Well, that was the whole idea, because I was not a television child at all. I
Right.
just kind of showed up and then was learning on the fly. And I was telling them when I had the school named after me in a speech that, famously or infamously, I lost it with Carl Lewis and the national anthem.
And also the Tanya Harding settlement where somebody got the tool shed, right?
The tool chest.
The tool chest?
Yeah, and the other one got the truck. That's love.
No, but in all seriousness, though, and you do have a school of sports communication at Bradley University named after you this past January. So congratulations on that. That's a monumental achievement. But how much of you is going to be part of this curriculum? Because that is part of you, Charlie. I mean, you're this serious newsman from the radio days, right? Serious sports newsman. You've also, as we all know, had a little set to at Wimbledon back in the day, right?
1981.
You went toe-to-toe with, who did you go toe-to-toe with?
Nigel Clark.
Nigel Clark. That SOB, Nigel Clark, right? Got in your way? Did he get in your way?
A fine fellow.
A fine fellow. I mean, but so you've had some moments with fellow journalists, and you've also had moments on the air where you've lost it. I mean, what do you tell kids that are coming to your school in a way?
Basically, part of the speech that I made, I said, this whole Carl Lewis, I said, I live on iCloud and YouTube. And that moment was actually very liberating because I completely lost it. But in the process, I felt it was like I was free. I thought when I was done with that I would go back to the newsroom and I'd be fired. But no, everybody was hysterically funny and laughing, thankfully. And I said, I learned something that night. You can be yourself on radio or television because that's who you are. You can't be anybody else. So it was actually kind of a learning therapeutic session, and I told that to the kids when I was out there.
They are.
They are.
Charlie,
they are.
You know what I mean? These are college students, right?
And so this whole thing has afforded me this opportunity in the off season to do some serious stuff. And so I'm really excited about it. So to answer your question, I'm going to go out and spend a week and lecture. We're going to do a week of symposiums when we can bring people in, and of course it's the football season. And I could prevail upon you now, and you could say yes and no.
I'd love to be part of whatever you're doing. Are you kidding me? I mean, this is really neat, Charlie. I mean, this is the first school of its kind named after somebody.
It's pretty.
So I mean,
bizarre.
it's not just oh well, you're
it's
in a
not
line
just
of them.
AAA broadcasting.
No, it's not Chico's bail bonds.
No.
I got Charlie Steiner here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's talk some Dodgers. What's going on with Kershaw? Why is his ERA not minuscule or spandex thin, as our friend Stuart Scott would say?
Don't know. He's still a well above average pitcher, although he hasn't pitched as well as he can. I don't think anybody's got an answer yet, other than the fact that through the first 9 starts, he has been okay. People are not used to Clayton Kershaw being merely okay. He started out last year okay. He missed the first 5 starts on the disabled list, and his numbers were up until about June, and then he took off, and he was the best pitcher that we've seen in years. I don't know what's wrong. But we will find out. I mean, he's still striking out a bunch. He's not walking very many. His ERA is higher than it should be, and he expects it to be. There's still plenty of time. Having said all that, they've got 10 guys on the disabled list. So 10 of the 40-man rosters on the DL. Kershaw hasn't been Kershaw yet. They're getting by with Mike Bolsinger and Carlos Frias, and they still have a 2-game lead on the Giants, who are playing great. So all things being equal, slightly past the quarter pole of the season, I think the Dodgers kind of like where they are.
Well, I mean, it's first place, and it is above 500. And if you got somebody like Bolsinger retiring 23 Padres in a row, that's a great way to, as you say, quote-unquote, get by. Puig, when do we expect him back, and in what form do we see Yasiel Puig,
I don't
think?
know, which is, again, the hamstring is such a
It's a fickle beast, sir. It's more than day to day, as you would say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Don't know, but what's been most gratifying, I think, from the Dodger perspective, is that they're doing so well without him. You know, he's only started 11 games this year. And so Andre Ethier is having a wonderful comeback.
Isn't that amazing?
He's playing great.
That he was the forgotten man.
He
with
was
Carl
on his way
Crawford,
out of town.
Right, and Kemp and Puig and Van Slyke couldn't get a sniff, even though he was doing some good work whenever he got a chance. And Ethier was the guy that Mattingly's supposedly trying to teach a lesson while bucking him up at the same time. And now here he's coming back. I mean, he's an integral part of the reason why they are where they are.
He's been terrific. There's just no getting around it. For about 3 years, he was MIA for various reasons, injuries and other things. But now he is back to where he was 2011, 10, 11. He's had a great year. There's just no getting around it.
And this is also my way of trying to sing the praises of Don Mattingly, who, as you know, is very near and dear to my heart. I don't know if you know, but Susie and our daughter's middle name is Mattingly for many reasons. There's only one, really. I'm just trying to cover my tracks, so I'm not
I don't
fanboy.
know. I want to know specifically.
No, he is the man. Okay. But this is a perfect example, right? I mean, if he doesn't handle Ethier properly last year or throughout this whole process, then where are they right now? That's at least my take on it.
Yes, the clubhouse dynamic is significantly different this year than it's been in the previous 3 or 4 years.
Because Kemp is gone?
Matt Kemp is gone. Hanley Ramirez is gone. Brian Wilson is gone.
Sure.
And again, chemistry is one of those things you can't quantify, but you know it, you feel it, you sense it, you smell it. And it's a different room in there, and they brought in a couple of grown-ups in Jimmy Rollins, Howie Kendrick. Ethier is back again on a mission. And they've got some grown-ups on this team, and they're playing the game right.
And I've got Charlie Steiner here in studio, and also a hitting coach who, it's sort of remarkable how in this 21st century that McGuire is sort of under the radar. Certainly with everybody talking about PEDs and things of that nature. And here's Mark McGuire, a sweetheart of a guy, sitting there in the #2 market in the United States media market. Nobody talks about him
And he is perfectly happy.
How is he doing? What is going on with him?
Not only Mark McGuire, but John Valentin, his assistant, are two very smart
From back
guys.
in the Red Sox
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they understand hitting, but a hitting coach is more than just, hey, work on a grip or this or that. How pitchers pitch to a given hitter in given situations. So these guys are there very early in the day, going over video, even before the players arrive, to say, all right, this is what we can reasonably expect out of this guy in this inning, in this situation. So it's not just merely altering or tinkering with a swing. These guys are very bright. And again, both McGuire and Valentin had great careers. They don't need to be doing this in their lives. They like doing it, and oh, by the way, they're really good at it.
So do you think McGuire wants to manage one day?
I don't think so. I think he's very happy doing what he's doing.
Right here
I've
in
never
SoCal?
asked him.
You never asked him, huh?
I've never asked him whether he wants to manage. I just think he likes his life and lifestyle now. You know, he's come home. You know, he commutes to work. You know, and in baseball, that's not an easy thing to do. To live basically in your home and go to work every day.
With young kids, he's got some young kids too.
Who can play.
Are you serious?
Oh, you watch them play catch, you know, 3 hours, 4 hours before a game. Like, oh.
Everybody, look, and he's another guy that I pound the table for because I have a soft spot for McGuire. Everybody talks about PEDs, blah, 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 blah. He hit 50 home runs as a rookie, reed thin, wafer thin. He hit 50 home runs as a rookie. And that, even with all of the craziness with whatever these players are taking, no one's come close to 50 home runs as a rookie.
But and the other thing, again, watching him work every day, is that he fundamentally understands how to hit. So it's not just it wasn't Paul Bunyan just hitting him long and far, but he knows how to hit, what to do in given counts, given situations.
Right.
He's really quite good at it. And even before he came to the Dodgers and before he initially went to St. Louis to do what he's doing, players would come to him in the off season, to his home in Southern California, and have them work.
Matt Holliday's one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, and
several of them.
Several of them. Before I let you go, I would be remiss if I what is it like having a front row seat with Vince Scully in your, what's your left, your right, wherever you are?
He's one booth to my right.
Right.
When I was 7 years old and I was a Brooklyn Dodger fan, the first voice I heard on a radio was Vince. and I was the RCA Victor dog with my ear to the speaker. And that's what I wanted to be when I grew up. Not who I wanted to be, what I wanted to be. And then through all these years, and ESPN was a way station to get to this appointed place that I set out for myself when I was 7. It's one of those, there's not a day that goes by where I don't pinch myself. He's the Babe Ruth of our business. And the fact that I can play pepper with him every day and have dinner with him every night is like, all right, the bucket list is complete.
Charlie Steiner here on the Rich Eisen Show. Again, congratulations on the Charlie Steiner School of Sports Communication. And I'd come back, maybe All-Star break or whatever.
Sure.
I don't know when you ever got to. Heck,
Whenever.
You're in the booth tonight against with the Braves and
Yes.
the Dodgers. So I'd love to have you back.
Cut me, Lou.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.